Welcome to the Footwear Design and Technology School. This is a pattern engineering module. This module will deal with the use of the snap-off blade, pattern cutting knife. We will also be looking at the self-healing cutting mat, which it is used with. This is the typical self-healing cutting mat, which we use in pattern cutting. It is designed to close up the cuts made in it, so it can be used over and over again. This mat comes in various colors, shapes, and sizes. They are usually obtainable in art stores, or you can order them online. The mat I am using is a purple A3 mat, which is the ideal size for pattern cutting. If you can find a large one, that covers your complete work desk, that is even better. The measurements and lines on them are irrelevant for our use. Sometimes the mat gets warped in storage or transport. If this happens, put it in the sun for a while, until it softens. When it is soft, bring it inside and place it on a flat surface to cool down. Once cool, it will be ready for use. Should the mat still have an irregular surface when you take it out the sun, just place a heavy flat object on top of it to straighten it out. Next we have the snap-off blade knife, which is usually referred to as a NT cutter. Here we have the typical one, which is ideal. Quality in a pattern engineering knife is essential. The two major qualities are as follows. The sleeve in which the blade runs must be a steel sleeve. The plastic ones are not suitable. The blade must be a 30-degree blade. Most knives come out with 45-degree blade, which is not a problem. You can merely buy 30-degree blades and replace the ones in the knife. The 30-degree blades are usually hard to find, so when you buy, we suggest you buy a few packs. Safety when using the knife. This is my cutting knife. It has a little comfort built into it, but note that it still has a steel shaft and a 30-degree blade. There is nothing wrong with the slim metal knives. In actual fact, they are easier to use when you start off, and I highly recommend them. Note that your knife has extremely sharp blades, and can easily cut you, or even stab you, so it needs to be handled with care. Always make sure to retract the knife, when not in use, by pulling the side slider button to the back position. How to sharpen the blade. The knife will go blunt as you use it. The great thing about this knife is that it has no need for sharpening. You merely break off the tip of the blade and it will be as sharp as new. Let me show you how this is done. First you extract your knife, so that one slot on the blade is protruding past the casing. Then you remove the back cap of the knife by sliding it out. Take the slot in the back cap and place it over the first section of the knife blade. Now snap the blade section off, by twisting the cap away from you. The first section of the blade will snap off easily. Be careful, as this section can sometimes shoot off, and easily end up in someone's eye. It is advisable to cover the blade with your hand when doing this. Discard off the old blade section in the dustbin immediately. Personally, I collect all my old blades in a small container and dispose of them sealed. Now replace the back cap. Your knife is now sharp and ready to use. You can retract the blade again for safety's sake. A time is going to come when you have used up the whole blade, or you would want to replace a 40-degree blade with a 30-degree blade. When the blade is too short, it will not protrude far enough out of the casing to use. In this event we need to replace the blade. So first take out a single blade from the packet. Be careful when removing the blade from the packet. These blades are extremely sharp. Close the packet properly and store in a safe place. It is advisable to store them in a small plastic container to prevent them from accidentally cutting you. Now remove the back cap of the knife by sliding it out. Pull the whole slider mechanism, with the blade, out the back of the knife. Hook the old blade off the slider, and safely discard the old blade. Now take the new blade, noting the direction of the cutting edge, and place the hole in the blade, onto the pin on the slider. Keeping it all together, place it back in the knife casing, and replace the back cap. Your knife is now reloaded with a new blade. It's now ready to use again. Now we are going to teach you a very important part of good pattern cutting. This is the art of holding your knife correctly. This process takes some getting used to, but once mastered, you will have no problem in cutting smoothly and accurately. Pause the video and get your knife. It is of utmost importance to learn to hold your knife correctly. Without mastering this, you will not cope in the pattern cutting processes. It is an instinct for most students to hold the knife in the palm, like you would hold a bread knife. Well, we have bad news for you, you're not going to cut bread, so start thinking differently. Take the knife as you would hold a pen to write. Got that? Now you pinch the knife, with only your thumb and middle finger, keeping all the other fingers away from the knife. Keep your middle finger straight, or finger number 3, do not bend it. Put the tip of this finger against the slightly extruded blade side, and the thumb against the side of the knife. The knife must be held by only these 2 fingers. Once you have mastered this, place your hand palm down as flat as possible on the cutting mat. Place your second finger on top of the knife. This finger will be the one to apply pressure on the knife. Spread your remaining fingers 4 and 5 as wide as possible. This is to create lateral stability of the knife and keep the knife upright all the time. The wider the spread, the better it is. From the side it should look like this. The thumb holding the knife in place and the middle finger stabilizing the blade. The second finger placing downward pressure to enable the knife to penetrate the board. Please note that only enough pressure to cut through the paper is needed. The thicker the paper, the more pressure will be needed. Also note that the more horizontal the knife is, the easier it will slice through the paper. All that is needed now is for you to pull backward with your arm and create the cut. Practice your cutting without paper. Use your cutting board to cut on. We do not take responsibility for what your mother will do to you if you use her dining room table. Pull the knife towards you. The most comfortable direction is usually toward your elbow, when you move only your upper arm. This will give you a straight cut. Keep your fingers spread and your palm down as low as possible. Now for some cutting techniques. Now that you know your knife, and can hold it correctly, we need to look at some cutting techniques. We use normal A4 printing paper to start off with. There are cutting exercises that follow, and are available for download and printing. Cutting straight towards you is very uncomfortable. Rather learn to turn your paper, and cut by pulling toward your elbow. This is far better than trying to cut in uncomfortable positions. Practice to cut straight lines. The same applies for cutting curves. Turn the paper 45 degrees and cut towards your elbow side. The same applies for cutting circles. Turn the paper 45 degrees and cut towards your elbow side. Cut short, comfortable cuts. Do not work at uncomfortable angles. Always turn the paper and continue the cut where you ended the previous cut. Many times we have tight curves and corners we need to cut. For example, this circle. When we try cut a tight corner, as in this circle, the way we cut gentle curves, the knife tears the paper, and it is impossible to cut accurately. The corners can only be cut by lifting the back of the knife up, so that it is more vertical to the cutting board. The tighter the curve, the more vertical the knife must be. So from the horizontal position of the knife, we lift our palm, and put the weight of our hand onto our 3 outer fingers. These 3 fingers will create the stability. Without them, the cutter will have no control. From the top, it will now look like this. The 3 fingers where the weight will rest on is here, here and here. The rest of the hand is in the air. Let's look again at the side. When the hand is in the normal cutting position, the hand is on the cutting surface and the 3 outer controlling fingers as well. The cutting edge of the blade is at about 30 degrees to the surface, so it will cut with a slicing action through the paper. As the hand goes up, the palm lifts off the table, and all the weight of the knife rests on the outer 3 fingers, which are to be spread out to create stability. The problem is that the cutting edge of the blade is now almost vertical, so it will no longer slice through the paper, but perform more of a chopping action, like cutting bread without moving the knife backward or forward. It is therefore very important that the knife is sharp when performing delicate work. Remember to always retract the blade after use, and keep it away from children. If you look after your knife, it will give you many years of service. There are modules available for the use of every tool in footwear.